Hey, I'm Sean Connolly, and I am a senior at Georgia College and State University, and I am a computer science major. And here's App Inventor. Alright, I'm going to show you guys how to create just a real basic app to give you a feel for App Inventor. Here in our GCSU site, you go and hit new to create a new project. And this first project that we're going to create is it's going to be a simple button, and this button, you click it, it's going to go ahead and call a sound file. For our example, it's going to be a picture of a cat, which is similar to the one that's in the book. And when you click this cat, it's going to make a purr sound. So let's go ahead and name this project cat purr, and it automatically loads into the app. Here's the layout of App Inventor. On the left side, we have our palette, and that has all the components that you can drag onto your screen. And this is your viewer right here. And on the right side, you have your components, and this is where you can rename different components. And then on the right, you have your properties of your components. So let's go ahead and grab a button, or let's start off with a label. And this label, it's always good to rename your components as soon as you drop them. Then whenever we get into the blocks editor, you'll be able to identify what you're working with. So let's call this instructions label. So this is we're gonna tell it's gonna be at the top of our app. We're gonna tell our app users to touch the cat to hear it purr. And over here on your properties is where you can make the font bigger. You can change the background color. You can change the text color. You can center it. This width right here, there's an option for fill parent, and that'll automatically fill the width of the screen. If you could also have it if you have your screen sideways, your Android device sideways, it'll actually fill the very top, which would be here now. So we're going to say fill parent, and then we're going to want to have add our cat button. And right now it's got your default text. We could change that. Since it's going to be a picture, we don't really want any text. And I already have a picture downloaded. I'm going to go ahead and add it. Add cat eyes. Go ahead and hit OK. It uploads to our App Inventor server. Done. Now, this component viewer is a very crude example of what your app's going to look like. There's actually a Android emulator that comes with this App Inventor that will display exactly what you're going to see if you were to have it on a phone or other Android device. And you can actually, if you don't want to use the emulator and you have your own Android device, you can package it and show a barcode, and that way it'll actually display a QR code, and you scan that and it downloads your app right to your phone, and you can use it on your phone. Or you can download to the connected phone, which allows you to actively change the app instead of having to keep packaging it. So here, let's go ahead and rename our button to cat button. And in here you can't use any spaces, so you have to use underscores or just capitalize or however you want. So let's call this cat button. I'll rename this instructions label with underscore. So now we have our cat button and our instructions right up here. Now if you want to change the whole background for the whole screen, you could say background to make a light gray. So here is all we have right now. And we also want, so whenever we click this big cat right here, we want it to make a purr sound. So we go here in media and we drag a sound component here. It's actually invisible, so it doesn't matter where you grab it or where you throw it onto the screen. Let's rename this cat sound or purr sound. So now we have a purr sound, and we want to add our actual audio file to it. So let's go ahead and upload it to the server. I already have it downloaded. So there it is, our purr sound, source purr.wave. So let's go ahead and open up the blocks editor, and this blocks editor is where you actually, the programming side comes in on App Inventor, where you're actually connecting different things and making different components do whatever you want. So we load up our blocks editor. So here's our blocks editor. It's going to go on our left side. We have our blocks, different things we can select from, and then this is our programming area. And this is where you can actually start your emulator. So let's go ahead and start a new emulator. Give it a second to upload or load up. And let's go ahead and start programming while that's loading up. Any change you make over here will automatically load up to here. So if I wanted to rename this anything in here, this is why we rename it in our components, so we can know what we're working with. So if I were to rename this to it's going to actually load right up here. So all your components are right here. So we want our whenever we press our cat button, we want it to make a sound. So we click on our cat button block right here, and this gives us an option of everything we have for cat button. For this one, we want to say when we click it, if you leave your cursor over the component, it'll actually tell you what it does. It says indicates a user has clicked a button. So we want to, whenever a user clicks a button, we want to play a sound file, the purr sound. So we go here in purr sound, and we want to say purr sound.play. So now let's go ahead and connect to our emulator. And this is where if you had your own USB cable and your Android device, you can actually connect to it right here and actually hold what you're doing. So whenever this is yellow, it's connecting to your emulator, and whenever it turns green, that means it's fully loaded. So let's go ahead and unlock our phone, and here's our cat app. Touch the cat here at purr. Go ahead and turn the volume up. So we click the cat and we hear it purr. And we want to make this a little bit more complicated. We can go ahead and when we click the cat, we can make it wink with a second image. So when we click the button, we can load a different image to it, and whenever it's done purring, we can load this image back to it. So to do that, we're going to need a timer object. So under here, we're going to go into, actually it's called a clock, and we're going to disable the timer to begin with. Go in here, and now here's our clock. Basically, whenever the clock is enabled, it's going to go here and call this timer. So what we want to do is whenever the cat button is clicked, we'll say clock 1, timer enabled 2. And if you click anywhere in the screen, it brings up all the basic buttons. It's the same as clicking over here in built-in. Logic, true. Same here. It's false. So we want to enable the button. So then once you click this, it's going to call the sound, and then it's going to set the timer to true. So this timer is going to go off over here. So over here we want to that our cat button, we want it to change our image to something else. So let's go ahead and load up our other images that we want to use. So I'm just going to throw them down here. So we have image 1 and image 2. Well, this is going to be, we want to change it back to our original image, so I'm going to call this cat 1 and call this one cat 2. So here I'm going to go ahead and load up our second cat, and I have a cat with its eyes closed. And our cat 1, we want this to be our original cat eyes. So now we have cat 1 and cat 2. So let's go ahead and make these invisible. And these images are just used to change this picture. So we go here, and we're actually going to do that here. We're going to set our cat image to cat2.picture. So that's the actual picture. And then whenever this timer is called, we want to go ahead and say, change this to false to disable the timer again. And we want to, you can use Control C and Control V for any object. I'll just go ahead and cat button.image to our cat 1 picture. So there you go. So now we should go here, we click it, it closes its eyes, plays the sound, and then reopens them. Notice it opened the eyes before the sound was done playing. We can change that by going into our clock timer and setting that to, this is in milliseconds right now, so we could set that to, let's go ahead and try 2000, double the time. Back to our emulator, and that's perfect. So there's our cat app. Let's go ahead and show you what a more complicated app might look like. So we're going to load up the security app from our students from last year and open up the blocks editor. And this uses things like you can use the phone's web browser, you can use the phone's calling capabilities. There's even other things such as GPS, and you can use the camera to take pictures. There's a lot of different functionality you can use and get into some really cool app building. So here's their app, and they were assigned, their team was assigned to create a security app for students to use on campus. Let's go ahead and look at their app in our emulator. So basically they have a bunch of buttons that they can click to bring them to different pages. So here's computer security, gives you different information on that. Here's personal security, just a bunch of different tips. Here's first aid information. Shows you the Heimlich maneuver. And you can also make phone calls. So if we wanted to call campus police, go ahead and click that, and actually dials this number. I mean, this would actually happen on your Android phone if you had it installed to it. On the emulator, of course, it's not going to call campus security. But basically, that's a little bit more complicated app. It's very possible to create within just a couple days. And so, guys should look forward to using App Inventor. It's a pretty fun little tool, and it's pretty rewarding to use your own apps and show them off to your friends.